Now I'll show you, this is the best one obviously to show you guys on. This little tree here, right, is another acacia. There's plenty of acacias you'll find throughout Central Australia, and why is that? Because they're tolerant to the desert environment. They can handle the lack of water, they absorb enough, they don't need a lot to survive, so they're capable of survival. Alright, so these fellas are seen everywhere. We've scattered all the way. You would have noticed them all the way along. Heaps and heaps of different varieties of the acacia. You've got two main types, the acacia neura, and this one, which is pretty much the same thing but found in the hills, Acacia macedonianus. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Their botanical name. Pretty much the same thing, have the same sort of use. Mulga bush is its common name. Now, one of the main things was using it for food source. A couple of different ways you could do that. During certain times of the year, it will develop a seed. Now, that seed is able to be crushed up. It was a very common practice for the Aboriginal people to crush seeds up to create into a flour. And these seeds, they would crush up, they would add a bit of water and make it into a paste. Okay, now it tastes a little bit like, peanut butter. Alright, so they'd make their dampers off the spinifex. I think the boys told you about that, didn't they? The spinifex, you can see spinifex behind us. Again, all different species. Crush those seeds up into flour, water, add a bit of beer. No, they don't have beer, of course. And they would make a damper, alright? So the original breads. Then of course you could spread peanut butter. Now apparently it has the same nutrients, same goodness as peanut butter does. So peanut butter's been around for a long time. You think it's all relatively new? Nah, Aboriginal people have been doing it for years. Now that's not the only food source, alright? Your seeds and berries, they were your more common food source in a desert environment. Alright, have you seen many kangaroos and emus? No. So as you can imagine, it's pretty hard to come across these kangaroos and emus. So that, of course, was an important part of the diet, but not a very common part of the diet. We can catch them, however. All right, we can catch them. We're going to build a spear as we go along. We're not going to build a spear off here, not literally either. But out of this wood, you can get a spear tip. They would get their spear tip out of it. If you got a splinter from this, so if you're collecting firewood or anything, and you got a splinter in your foot or your leg or your hand, you get really, really infected. All right, so almost poisonous. It's not going to kill you or anything, but it will get really infected. It's not really good for the wounds. Right, so if you do, you really need to get that out. So they would use that on the tips of their spears. Okay, now they would wrap that to the end of the vine stem, which I'll show you later as we construct this spear, hypothetically. Basically, it's almost like it's a dart, you know, when they try and catch wild animals, like they should have done in bloody America the other day. Instead of shooting, they dart them, they'll stun them. So it helps to sort of stun the animals by using this as a spear tip. Now another a weapon of choice would come out of the root system. See the root system here, how it naturally curves? What does that look like? Say I cut it here and I cut it here. Looks like that, yeah, boomerang. Alright, now there's two main types of boomerangs. There's all different types, depending on where you are in the country. The typical returning boomerang, you've all seen the symmetrical one. You've all seen one, yeah? Yeah, or heard of. Alright, the idea is it returns. Okay? So it's curved and shaped in a certain way. Why is it meant to return? It's not for a game of solitude where you're just playing by yourself, you've got no one else to throw a frisbee to or something. The idea is you'll throw it and try and catch the birds. If it misses the bird, it comes back to you. Of course, if you hit the bird, it's going to drop to the ground, and so's the bird, so you've got to get them both anyway. Alright? So the idea of the boomerang is it returns if you miss. Okay? What do you call a boomerang that doesn't return? A stick. Good man. Alright? And that's another form. Okay? We've spoken of the symmetrical one for returning. You'd also cut it up to here. And we'd have the 7 or the club boomerang, so it'd be like this. Okay? Now the idea of that is for catching kangaroos or emus. Alright, and the intention, the way they would do that, it's more of a club, it's not going to return, it's not symmetrical, it's not designed for the return flight. It's more thrown harder and lower, and it's aimed at getting the legs. Alright, so the idea is you go up, you sneak up on them. Alright, because you wouldn't just go up, kangaroos, yeah, beauty, and we'll catch them, because that'd be stupid, they'd just take off. Alright, first what you do is you'd be very patient. We're in a desert environment, they're going to probably find your water. That's what they want. They can smell it 6 feet under the ground. So you'd follow them slowly, let them find the water, and then you'd sit patiently. Alright, because if you went straight up to them and killed a mob of kangaroos, 10 or 12 of them all just digging for water or drinking water, and killed one, you've got 11 witnesses. Alright, 11 witnesses that are never going to come back, because obviously it's a bad spot. So you would wait, you'd be patient, you've probably already been looking for a day or so for these kangaroos. You just wait, and then they gradually take off one at a time, leave one, and he's the victim, he's going to go. Then you've got no witnesses, they'll come back. Because if you just killed the first one, they took off, it's like going into Woolies and throwing a bomb in there and destroying your supermarket. That's just bloody stupid. Alright, so you'd kill that last one. And the way they do it is with that club boomerang, okay? They throw it hard and low and try and injure the legs. Why would they do that and not just kill it? Because they might have walked for a day or two. How hot does it get out here? Bloody hot, yeah? Ever smelled a dead kangaroo? Doesn't smell very pretty, alright? And of course you want your meat pretty fresh. They might have gone for a day or two out here, 40-degree heat, they've got to come back and feed the family. Okay, because the men go to do that. The men go to find that meat. So they want to bring it back. If they bring it back and it's already covered in flies and maggots, well that just defeats the purpose. So they just injure it. Alright, sounds cruel, but it keeps it fresh. The blood's still pumping through the body, the animal's still surviving. So by the time they get back, then they'll kill it. Because they've got fresh meat. Alright, so it does sound cruel, but that's the way they do it. They break the legs, they're not going anywhere. Chuck it on the shoulder, off we go, it's dinner time. Dinner time. Now they wouldn't also just go and kill 10 or 11 kangaroos. Oh beauty, look at all this food we haven't eaten for 3 weeks, proper meal. Because they're not going to eat that. Alright, if they were to kill all 11 of them or 12 of them, they would be bloody stupid again. Because they're not going to eat it all. And it also breaks down the cycle. Remember, it's all about the land. Alright, same as if they were to go fishing in another part of the country. You would catch what you need, and that is it. You wouldn't catch any more, because you'd break down the cycle, alright? And they'd also be smart about it. They would do it at certain times of the year, making sure the animals were mature, and then have them. They'd make sure they produce. They've got the fresh offspring there. That's next year's meat. We'll take the parents. Thanks very much. Alright, they wouldn't kill the young, because they're the ones that are coming through and breeding. Alright, it's all about a big cycle. It's all about living with the land. You've got to be smart about it. What else? Of course, it provides a fair bit of shade. All these the acacia bushes. You got another one here. While we're here, we might as well talk about him. A mallee. Right, these ones. The root system you can see gets pretty big. All right, and what's that storing? Water? Did you say water? No. You're correct though if you did. Storing water, the mallee. You've got two main different types, the red and the blue. You'll see them as you go along. You can see the tinge of colour in them. All right. A lot of Aboriginal people take great pride in these things. They love it. It's like their little storage thing. It's their little bottles of water. Okay, they can just help themselves to it. You know what they found a lot of early explorers doing under this? Dead. They found them dead. You know why they took great pride in that? Because these guys died of thirst. They died of thirst. And due to their lack of knowledge and thinking they knew everything, they died right next to their bottle of water. Alright, so the Aboriginal fellas took a little bit of joy out of that. How good's that? Right, they've died, they didn't know our land, they didn't treat it right. You've got to treat it with respect. You learn about the plants, you learn about the way of life, and you'll survive. You'll live for many, many tens of thousands of years as a generation. Alright, but here these guys are all dying right next to their bottle of water. So pretty stupid. Pretty stupid. So they loved it, the Aboriginal fellas.